The screen fades up from black, not to the familiar skyline of a major network, but to a grainy, black-and-white photograph. It's a surveillance still, captured from a high angle, showing a nondescript sedan parked on a leafy street that could be in Vienna, could be in Buenos Aires, could be in a quiet suburb of Maryland. They operate in the shadows, but their footprint is global. This is the apparatus of Iranian intelligence, a network so deeply entrenched, so patient, and so lethally effective that for decades it has rewritten the rules of geopolitical conflict. The image shifts to a mosaic of headlines and file photos. The bombing of the Amaya Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires in 1994. The attempted assassination of the Saudi ambassador in a Washington, D.C. restaurant in 2011. The meticulously planned kidnapping plots uncovered in New York and New Jersey. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's documented operational history. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Quds Force and the Ministry of Intelligence don't just defend borders. They project power, they eliminate threats, and they have done so on soil America considers its own backyard. We see a map of the world, with pulsating dots spreading out from Tehran, reaching into Europe, Africa, Latin America, and North America. From cyber attacks crippling infrastructure to sleeper agents conducting years-long reconnaissance for a single, perfect strike, Iran has built a formidable, decentralized engine of vengeance. It is an intelligence service that thinks in generations, not news cycles. The footage cuts to a more recent color clip. A protest outside an Iranian embassy somewhere, the chants muffled. Their targets are diverse: dissidents, journalists, former regime officials, rival intelligence operatives. The methods are adaptable. A motorcycle assassin's bullet in Istanbul, a poisoned letter in The Hague, a staged car accident in London. The through line is consistency. The message is unequivocal. Cross the regime, and no matter where you are not safe. The long arm of Tehran can and will find you. For years, U.S. counterterrorism officials have tracked this reach, disrupting plots, indicting operatives in absentia, and issuing travel warnings. It's been a shadow war, a tense, unending game of chess played on a board that spans the entire globe. The U.S. homeland has been both a battlefield and a sanctuary, a place where plots were hatched and where targets, believing themselves secure, have lived under constant, unseen assessment. The music, a low, persistent synth drone that's been building, suddenly drops out. The screen goes to a single stark text card on a dark background. It reads simply, Operation Swift Judgment, classified. But that shadow war has a name, and it has a home base. Enter CI-12. That's the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, Section 12. Their POV, Iran is not just another nation-state. It's a revolutionary ideological power that uses terrorism as a core tool of statecraft. Their entire job, their reason for existing, is to get inside Tehran's decision-making cycle, to understand the who, the how, and the when before the trigger is ever pulled. Think of them as the chess masters on our side of the board. While the CIA handles the overseas spy games, CI-12's battlefield is here, the homeland. Their mandate is to identify, penetrate, and dismantle Iranian intelligence and covert action networks operating on U.S. soil. Their biggest win to date, the one that put them on the map in a major way? The John Bolton plot. Summer of 2022. According to court documents and FBI briefings, a member of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, tried to orchestrate the assassination of the former U.S. National Security Advisor. The price tag? $300,000. The method? It was to look like a robbery gone wrong, a messy hit on the streets of Washington, D.C. or Maryland. But CI-12 was already inside the loop. They'd been tracking the financial trails, the encrypted communications. They watched as the operative, Shahram Poursafi, allegedly tried to hire someone to carry out the hit. That someone was actually an FBI confidential source. The whole thing was a CI-12 sting from the jump. Poursafi was charged in absentia. The plot was neutralized. It was a textbook defensive victory, a masterclass in proactive counterintelligence. But here's the thing about that win, and about CI-12's entire posture. It's defensive. It's reactive, even in its most proactive operations. Their strategy is based on detection and disruption. They wait for the threat to manifest, to start moving, and then they pounce. They are the ultimate counterpunchers. But Operation Swift Judgment just changed the entire game. The rules are gone. The deterrent is Ash. We are no longer in a shadow war of plotted assassinations. We are in a declared war of mass casualty terrorism. CI-12's expertise is now more vital than ever. They have the databases, the informants, the understanding of Tehran's tradecraft. They are the ones who would know if sleeper cells are being activated, if financial reserves are being tapped, if the order has gone out to every asset in the Western Hemisphere to strike at soft targets. The question hanging in the air now, the one that keeps every agent at CI-12's headquarters up at night, is this. Is a defensive posture enough? Their entire playbook is built around stopping a single, carefully planned operation like the Bolton hit. The answer to that question came not in a briefing, but in a series of explosions that lit up the night sky over 3 European capitals. That was the opening salvo. While the world's media scrambled to cover the coordinated bombings at transportation hubs in Berlin, Paris, and Rome, CI-12's internal chatter exploded with a different kind of recognition. The tradecraft was textbook, low-tech, high-impact, designed for maximum terror and media saturation. It was the exact escalation their psych profiles had predicted. A decapitation strike demands a bloody public response to prove the regime isn't crippled. But here's the kicker. The part that turned spines to ice. According to intercepted financial traffic from a Mossad liaison, the funds used to bankroll these attacks weren't fresh transfers. They were drawn from dormant accounts, reserve funds for deep cover assets that hadn't been touched in years. The sleeper cells weren't just being activated, they were being given the green light to spend their last dime. This was a burn-it-all-down play. And the homeland? The chatter shifted. It became less about logistics and more about intent. Fragments of communications, parsed by NSA algorithms and CI-12's own Farsi linguists, pointed not to another embassy siege or a hacked power grid. The phrases were different. The great sorrow. A day of weeping. An answer written in fire. The analysts called it apocalyptic signaling. It's the kind of language you use when the objective isn't geopolitical leverage. It's for vengeance. Pure and simple. Soft targets, malls, sports arenas, concert halls. The intelligence wasn't a smoking gun. It was the smell of smoke in the wind, and everyone knew the fire was coming. Back at CI-12 headquarters, the defensive posture shattered. The playbook was thrown out. You don't set a perimeter when the enemy is already inside the walls. The director, a woman who usually had the calm demeanor of a chess master, was now barking orders like a battlefield general. I need names. I need locations. I need to know which of these 1,000 blinking dots on the map is the one holding the match. They were cross-referencing travel records of known associates with recent purchases of precursor chemicals. They were looking at rental trucks, storage units, anything that could facilitate a strike bigger than anything they'd seen on European soil. The pressure was a physical thing in the room. This was the high tide, and they were desperately building a sandcastle. Then the break, or what felt like a break. It came from a tapped line on a cultural attaché in Venezuela, a guy CI-12 had pegged as a low-level intelligence officer. His instructions to an unknown recipient were chillingly simple. The weather is clear for the wedding. The phrase was a ghost from a dozen previous intercepts. A wedding meant a major attack. Clear weather meant all systems were go. For the team at CI-12, it was the first tangible thread in a tapestry of chaos. They had a vector, Venezuela, the cultural attaché, and a ticking clock they couldn't see. But here's the POV shift you need to understand. While CI-12 was chasing that ghost in Caracas, the real threat was already home. The strategic miscalculation wasn't in the intelligence gathering, it was in the assumption of distance. The Kremlin's play, according to senior analysts we spoke to, was never just about a spectacular European attack. It was a two-pronged gaslighting operation on a global scale. The chaos abroad was meant to be a blinding flash, a sensory overload for Western intelligence agencies, pulling all resources and high-level attention to external fires. Meanwhile, the slower-burning, more dangerous domestic operation could proceed in the shadows. The break in the European plot, which we now know was disrupted 72 hours after that clear weather signal, was a tactical victory, but it was also part of the adversary's design. It made the headlines. It let politicians declare a win. It created a false sense of contained peril. The real story, the one with far graver consequences for the average citizen, was unfolding in plain sight across suburban America, not with dramatic bomb plots, but with the meticulous, patient cultivation of assets, the coercion of vulnerable officials, and the systematic probing of critical infrastructure, from power grids to water treatment plants. The domestic peril wasn't heightened by a failed overseas attack. It was heightened by the diverted gaze that attack was engineered to create. The editorial reality is this: the nation's security hinges on these unseen efforts, yet the strategic environment is stacked against them. The flashy foreign crisis will always suck the oxygen and the budget out of the room. The domestic, slow-roll invasion of our institutions by a hostile power doesn't make for gripping prime-time coverage. It's a story of policy documents, obscure procurement contracts, and compromised local officials. It's a cairn of a threat, pervasive, exhausting, and fundamentally corrosive to the foundation. So, as the credits roll on this particular crisis, remember the cliffhanger isn't about the terrorist who got away. It's about the system that remains exposed. The counterintelligence communities saved the day in Europe. But the question they're asking in the quiet after the storm is the one that should keep every American awake. Who was watching the house while all the cops were chasing the car chase? The answer will define our security for a generation. This has been The Analysis. Good night.